And we're back at BlueVenn Join for a third session of the day, BlueVenn 2018, the Technology Roadmap. Now, our research and development team are working hard all year round, developing the BlueVenn customer data platform to the highest standard to ensure our clients have the latest technology available in the market. So we've set up this session to give you an exclusive look into what the team have been working on this year. And it gives you the opportunity to ask our VP of Technology himself, Chris Hares, any questions that you may have. We will also have Matt Dimond, consultant at BlueVenn, co-presenting with Chris. For any listeners who haven't had the chance to see the platform itself, this will be a great opportunity for you to do so. And for any of our clients or partners listening, here's what you can expect for 2018. So just remember that you can send over questions, so make sure you do so. And Chris and Matt, over to you.
Great, thank you, Jen, for the amazing introduction. So first up is just have a look at the agenda we've got for today's session. So we'll begin by giving you a review of 2017, just to bring you up to date on all the excellent work, as Jen says, we've been doing as a team over the last year. Then we've got a fabulous demonstration by Matt in the centre of the section, so you can see all the new features. And then finally, probably the most exciting bit is to give you an overview of what we're going to do in 2018. So where we're really going to take the product. So let's begin with a review of 2017 and just cover what we've done so far to date, including our latest release, 2017.4. So it's been a very successful year for BlueVenn on the marketing platform. We've made a significant investment into new functions and features in the product, and now we're at the 2-year point, incredibly, since our very first release, and we've got a significant number of users and clients now using the platform, and that's also driven a high level of feedback on what individuals would like to see and also how we can shape our 2018 roadmap. So as you're probably aware, we break up our releases into quarters of the year. And those quarters of the year are identified by the year and the individual quarter as a release number. So you know exactly where you stand when you take the latest release. Now, those releases come out at the end of March, June, September and December. And over the year, we've covered some significant features. We've got new pivot comparison. We've added some changes to campaign selections, including predictions and modeling. Some changes on mapping and geography. Extensions to allow access to real-time data, internationalization and customization of the product, some nightly management features and a license key system. And this is all the great things that Matt's going to show in more detail later. I thought I'd just include this slide here actually that just shows a number of improvements we've made on every single release over the year. So you can see that there's some quite significant numbers. And each of those show an individual change that's done. So in the last release, 2017.4, we've made 363 individual changes to the product. So over the year, we've made more than 1,000 changes for you to enjoy. There's been a couple of sort of more quieter releases, like the one in 2017.3. And in those periods, we concentrated more on our connector development, which again, I'll come on to a bit later. We also don't forget about our more established products. So our Blue Analyzer or Max product, we still also release twice a year as well. That particular product has also had some significant changes over the year, and we're still now releasing that at the end of May and the end of November. Now, connectors has been a key part of our development during 2017. We recognise that the platform will only be as successful as the external products it can talk to. So this slide shows you the significant list that we've now invested in and built as part of our system. It's a combination of email service providers, ESPs, data connectors, connectors to sort of loyalty card systems, reporting systems, data, and other environments like Amazon Web Services and MongoDB and SQL Server that you can make use of. But connectors for us will be a continued and key part of our development life cycle moving forwards. Great, that's hopefully a quick review from a R&D point of view on 2017. Now, to make sure you can see all the great work we've done, I'm now going to hand over to Matt, who's going to perform a demonstration of those key features in the product. And for those that haven't seen the product before, also hopefully it's a great introduction to the other features that have existed that you can also make use of when you take the product.
Thanks, Chris, and hi everyone. So let's get started by taking a look at some of the additional analysis features that have been added to the platform. And I'm going to start with the additions to pivot tables. So firstly, I'm just going to quickly build us a basic pivot table that we can use for this demonstration. And what I want to be looking at is I want to look at my sales channel, and I want to cross-tabulate that in relation to my product category. Quickly grab those out here. And just to sort of start off, if I just enlarge the properties pane on the right hand side as well, what we can see is that we've added additional tabs here. And the first of those I want to draw your attention to is the one labelled pages. So what we now have the ability to do within BlueVenn is to add pages to pivot tables. What this means is that we're able to conduct analysis of up to 5 different pivot tables to a base pivot, allowing us to sort of start building some more in-depth customer profiles and making comparisons across lots of different comparative values held in our database. So as you can see here, I have my all records pivot, which is our base pivot here, and I've added a page. What I'm now going to do is I'm actually going to filter that page by year. So I'm just going to bring up the year of purchase of the people who have bought from my particular business. Excuse my spelling. And using that purchase date year, I'm going to say everybody who has purchased from me last year is going to be dropped onto my comparison pivot. And then I'm going to change everybody who has purchased from me this year is going to go onto my base pivot. So now that those have calculated, what I can then do is start to look at the differences between my purchases in 2016 and 2017. And I have 2 different ways that I can do that. So if I look at the comparison value drop down here, I can express that as a numerical difference. So in this case, we will see that I have a difference of 1,857 mail order channel accessory purchases. Or I can choose to express that as an index as well. Now, it's worth pointing out that if we were to add extra pages to this pivot, they are all calculating in relation to the base pivot here, which in this example is 2017. So if I had 2015 on here as well, that wouldn't be calculating in relation to 2016. It would always be in relation to that base pivot. And this works in exactly the same way as if we want to express an index as well within the platform. And if we choose to express our comparisons as an index, as with the difference option we just covered, these will all compare to the base pivot as well. And they'll indicate trends in our analysis by expressing increases as positive numbers and decreases in sales as negative numbers. As we can see here between footwear, we've had an increase of 0.13, and snow, we've had a decrease of 0.09. The other feature that's been added to pivots as well is the ability to do all of our analysis at one table level. In this case, we've been working at the sales table level, but we may actually want to choose to express our analysis and visualize our analysis at a different table level. So here we might want to roll from sales table, we might want to roll this to household level, or even up to an individual customer level to find out which households or customers are actually responsible for each of those different transactions. And just like the existing pivot functionality in BlueVenn currently, we still have the ability to take individual cells or make different selections and drag them out to the bottom, as I'm sure I'll be showing you a little bit later. But before we move on from this particular pivot, I also wanted to show you one other thing in the properties pane, and this is around the addition of categories. So now categories are a way that we have enabled the ability to label and group different pieces of analysis together. You could do that by campaign, you can do that by brand, or by both. And you can use that to very quickly recall all of the different pieces of analysis that have gone into that particular campaign, especially useful if you want to actually repurpose that analysis to be run again at some point in the future. So if you want to take what you segmented from last Christmas, let's say, and use that to power this year's Christmas campaign, you're quite happily able to do that within the platform. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to set this as a comparative piece of analysis and drop that category onto there. And I'll show you how we recall using categories a little bit later. So one of the other things that's become particularly topical at the moment is the ability to suppress data due to the fact that we have GDPR coming in middle of next year. So what I want to do is I want to show how we're actually catering for that within BlueVenn. Now, I'm in an administrative user account, so I have privileges to see every piece of data within the platform. So here I'm going to use my field list to visualize all of my customer emails that underpin the 21,749 records I've just pulled out from our pivot. But if I was actually a member of the organization, so if I'm just doing analysis, or if I'm just somebody who has that lower limited level of access, and I'm subject to those GDPR permission restrictions, what we would actually see is a set of GDPR suppressed fields. Now, what this is doing is this is essentially masking what can be seen, and it's not actually limiting the user from using any of these fields from an analysis basis. What this also means as well is we're able to limit what can be exported from the platform, and also what can be visualized through exports as well. And this is stopping people taking screenshots of data and enabling the platform to ensure GDPR compliance for our users. So while we're on a selection here, I just want to jump into the designer view that we have and showcase a couple of the new nodes that have been added here. And the main one of those is actually the geographic node that we've added. So Chris and his team have been working hard to enable us to drop on a particular postcode. So in this way, in this case, I'm going to be looking at a central London postcode. And I want to see everybody that is within 10 miles of that particular postcode, but I can also filter that down, kilometers, meters, etc. So I can be as broad or as granular as I like. And it's also worth pointing out as well that while I run this, is that using the geographical points can actually be defined both as latitude and longitude or as zip code as well as UK postal code.
Yeah, I could just probably help Matt out here while that's calculating. I really love this feature because this allows you to show your customers around a particular geographical point. So imagine you want to look around a store or a historic landmark. You can actually now do that within the software. So an example would be if you run an auto dealership, then you can see all the customers that are located within a travelling distance of your particular store.
Thanks, Chris. So we can see here very easily how we've got that expressed as a heat map across central London. And we can zoom straight in and we can look at that particular range. Particularly useful, as Chris said, if you're looking at finding people within a particular drive time distance, or if you're looking at finding people within a particular geographic area. So sticking with the theme of mapping, there's a couple of other things I want to show, but I'm just going to actually jump to a piece of pre-built analysis I have just to make this a little bit easier. So what I want to be doing here is I want to take this intersection of my Venn diagram, and I actually want to choose to use another of the mapping functionality additions that we have within the platform, and I want to use this to generate a heat map of everybody that fell into that Venn diagram intersection. Now, if I quickly split my screen, what you'll see here is that you have one of these is manifested as a heat map within a geographical boundary, whereas the other has given us all of our customer base that have fallen into that particular Venn segment. One of the other things I can do, if I just go back full screen here and zoom in, is that we also have the ability to make selections off this exact map. So we have the ability to draw squares and circles over this thematically shaded map, and we can actually generate selections for inclusion into a particular campaign, for example. And this is particularly useful if we want to generate a subset of our original audience. So here we have a subset of 1,368, And this is particularly useful if you want to be sending everybody an email campaign, but everybody who falls under this circle, we want to send them a direct mail piece as well to work alongside that particular email communication. And finally, on the subject of mapping, we also have the ability to use mapping reports now within the platform. And if I just quickly jump to our RFV, or recency frequency value metrics, what we have the ability to do here is to take the different segments that are generated by the RFV module, and we can actually choose to push those straight to a new mapping report. And what this is doing is allowing us to actually visualize all of those particular customer segments. And we also have the ability to add layers to this as well. So what we can do here is jump back to our RFV report, and then I could choose to actually push my devotees to that exact same map report. And then I can map exactly how each of these two different customer segments overlays with one another.
This is a really good example of a feature that's come as a request from a large amount of our user community. So everyone was always asking the question, how do I compare two sets of people, two groups of people on the same map? And this is how we achieve that particular requirement within the software. So what Matt's showing here is those two selections, which we've by default chosen red and blue, rendered over the UK, where the most popular within that particular region is shown in that particular colour. So that allows you to see where you have the most popularity of a particular group in a particular area on your map.
So thanks for that, Chris. So now that we've covered the new analysis features, I'm quickly going to jump over to our campaign canvas, and we'll start having a look at some of the features that have been added in here as well. And the first of those I want to cover is around different audience steps as well. So obviously we have our original audience that we've known and loved for quite a while now within BlueVenn, but we have the addition now of both link from and link to nodes. What this is allowing us to do is to be enabled to join different elements of a customer journey and make these into more manageable campaign canvases, as well as enable us to split up the customer journey, making it easier to report on each of the different elements in isolation and determine what and how we can improve on those elements and the performance of those individual elements. I'm just going to quickly call up an example that I have here. So what we have is I have two different campaigns that I have built prior to the demonstration today. And the first one here has my audience coming in as we would normally expect as a campaign in BlueVenn, but off the back of the responses is where we're using the link to nodes here. And it's these link to nodes that are then populating to the next part of the journey, which we can actually see here. So this link from tallies up with the positive engagement from our initial communication, merges that audience together with an audience from another part of the analysis that we've conducted in the platform, and then they continue on through the customer journey, and then they're splitting out again using link to nodes there as well. And the great thing here is that this feature is also paving the way for some of the future developments that are really exciting, and Chris is going to take us through those a little bit later on. And as with the other audience nodes, we also have another addition here as well. So if I quickly jump back and remove everything here, what we've added is the ability to add implied audiences to a campaign. And I think this is probably best explained through a practical example.
Yeah, thanks Matt. So the implied audience and our new Facebook marketing API channel are a good example of two new features that work exceptionally well together. So imagine you are now completing a Facebook marketing campaign. You want to promote your new product to your existing Facebook users. The Facebook marketing channel now allows you to achieve that through the properties set on the right of the canvas there. Now during that Facebook campaign, your social community may not only just interact with you, they may also share that content or comment on that content, which means that content will not only be restricted to their timeline, but also appear on their friend's timeline. Now, if a friend decides to take up the offer, they are effectively now implied in the campaign because they have taken part as part of that original communication. So those individuals can now be used in a future part of the campaign because you now know about them through the implied audience feature.
Thanks a lot, Chris. It was really good. This is something which I think a lot of people are going to find really powerful moving forward. And the other thing I wanted to just touch upon here while we're still on the campaign canvas here, I can just quickly open this up, is we have the addition of nurture scoring or lead scoring within the platform now as well. And what this is allowing us to do is to use these scores to calculate engagement levels and journey enrollment criteria for all of our different campaigns and customer journeys. And we can do this by adding or subtracting or setting the score to particular values as an audience member passes to particular nodes within the platform. And we can assign these different nurture scores using any of the different nodes that come together to form either a campaign or a journey. So I think the next area that I wanted to show off in the platform, it plays a major part in a lot of campaigns through our dynamic split step here. And this is through predictive modeling, but it actually forms an entire module on its own. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to quickly open up a predictive model and at a high level just talk you through what we have here. So within BlueVenn, we power all of our predictive modeling using the statistical language called R. And we do this by allowing marketers to use built-in wizards in the platform as a way of constructing models. And this means that marketers and anyone else using the platform can actually get at the power of modeling without having to actually spend a lot of time and a lot of effort learning a fairly complex statistical language. And what this also means is we're able to package the functionality up in a far more user-friendly way. And what we can see here is an example of a predictive model that I have pre-run prior to today. And I'll just quickly walk you through what we can actually see. So if we start off with our analysis table here, this is set to the customer level. So we're analysing all of our data based on the customer level here. And our target query is defining exactly what we are trying to model. So in this case, we're trying to model all of our customers against customers who mostly complete their purchases in store. Below this, we can choose to add fields that we feel are most relevant for this model. So in this case, how old the customer is through their age band, their gender, their treatment segment or loyalty segment, and also using third-party data as well through, in this case, mosaic groups. We also have below here, we have a model query. And what this does is allows us to define what a lot of statistical marketers refer to as the modelling universe. And this in this case could be everybody who's completed more than 2 purchases, as you don't want to be modelling something that relies on a purchase having to take place and that person not having made a purchase to qualify for inclusion into the model. And to actually understand what this model is, this is a generalised linear regression model. And this is done on an 80-20 split. So what that means is that we're using 80% of the data that is available within the modelling universe we defined in the modelling query to actually test to model from. And then we use the next 20% here to actually test the model as though it was ingesting new data, so we can look at the validity of it as well. Also within the platform, we have the ability to train the model, and we also have the ability to schedule the maintenance as well. But rather than going into that at the moment, if anyone in particular wants to have a further conversation on that, please get in touch and we can happily take you through that in a little bit more of a personalised way. So Chris and his team have also made some really great improvements to the reporting elements at a campaign level. And just to show that, I'm just going to quickly open a campaign that I ran prior to the demonstration today. And as we can see, we have all of the dashboards associated with that as well that we would expect to find. But we also have a different level of reporting now, which is a campaign report here. And we can access this report for any saved and executed campaign from within the Reports tab here at the top of the canvas. And the metrics that we have in front of us are broken down into audience, channel, and response. And their response is also broken out into channel and into step as well. So from an audience perspective, what we can see here is a breakdown of each of the individual audiences that are being added to the campaign, what those audiences included in terms of numbers. And we also have the ability to look at all of the different suppressions that came in as well. So here, anyone that's been suppressed at a global level through security settings, campaign levels, so they've not met all of the criteria to be included in the campaign. And then step suppression, so we may have people in here that don't necessarily have email addresses or postal addresses for us to send to. And then I can collapse that and just have an overview as well. And from a channel perspective as well, we're breaking this down into all of the individual channels, and we can see who's been selected for inclusion into each of those channels, all of the removeds, all of our sends, delivers and conversions that we'd normally find on our dashboard, here just expressed in a numerical form. And below this as well, we have all of our responses that are dealt with, as I said, at a channel and at a response step level as well. And this means that we can actually analyse all of our responses by individual channel across the campaign and also by step, allowing us to analyse the timing of that execution through those channels as well. So the final thing I wanted to show before I hand back to Chris is the ability to generate banded derived fields from directly within the platform. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to quickly select the table level that I want to calculate these at. What we're able to do here with banded derived fields is this allows for the creation of different customer segments based on a combination of any of the attributes that we have in our database, and is allowing the user to combine these in any way that makes sense to them, and they can do that using both query syntax and the drag and drop functionality within the platform. So let me show you how we would go about doing that. So the first thing I want to do here is I want to understand what I want to build. So in this case, I want to be looking at my age band. I want to take everybody who is over 60. And I also then want to add in an income element to this banding as well. So in this case, I want to take everybody who is earning over £53,000 a year, and I want to add them into this particular banding as well. Now, the aim of this is to enable me to calculate my my affluent pensioners. And what I can very quickly do is just relabel that as well. And I can actually calculate the inclusion of the number of customers I have that fall into that banding there as well. And as we can add multiple bandings in here as well. And the second of these I want to be looking at is I want to be identifying my wealthy students. So in this case, I want to take my occupation here. I'm going to drop on anybody who is a student. I then want to filter them by age band. And the reason I say wealthy students is we all know what it's like having a student loan at our disposal. And we can very quickly drop those in there as well. And we can very quickly recalculate everybody that falls into these different bands. And we can add as many different attributes as we would like, including things like income as well. So there is no real limitation within the platform to how we can generate and use these different bandings. So once we have defined all of the different queries that come together to make up our banding, we can actually then move to the properties pane, and we can look at all of the different options around overlaps within our bandings as well. So if I just pull out parametric banding tab here, by ticking the allow overlap, what this means is that the system will calculate each band in turn and allow customers to fall into multiple bands if they meet the criteria to be included in those multiple bands. If, however, this remains unticked, the bands are calculated in turn, starting at the top of the page. And membership of one of the band 1, let's say, will actually prohibit membership of any of the other bands that fall below that as well. So that gives everyone an overview of what has been added to the platform by Chris and his team over the last year. And I'm now going to hand back to Chris so that he can take us through what we can expect from BlueVenn and in the BlueVenn marketing platform in 2018.
Thanks, Matt. That's amazing. I always find it incredible when you see all the features of a particular year's release all combined in one sort of neat demonstration. So it's quite quite impressive when you see all that we've produced over the last year. In addition to some of the things that Matt wasn't able to present, there's a couple more that I just want to pick up outside of the presentation. So the first is the customization and internationalization, the ability to change the software and make it available for international markets. We've also got some nice nightly management features which allow you to control the system and how it sort of responds and behaves overnight, so you can stop users logging in or running campaigns while a data load is happening. And in addition as well, from 2017.3 we also included a license key to actually control access. Right, onto the roadmap, which is probably the bit you've all been sort of waiting for in terms of what we're trying to achieve in 2018. Now for us the roadmap is a very important part of our process, and we take inputs from the clients like yourselves. We also take inputs from the business in terms of where we would like to go as a strategy, and we also take inputs from the experts in the industry like Forrester and Gartner, so what we see on our particular roadmap. So what you'll see coming forward now is what we are presenting as our 2018 content. Before we do that, I'd just like to run through and confirm what the release schedule is going to be. It will match our 2017.4 schedule, where we do the 4 BlueVenn releases and the 2 Blue Analyzer Max releases on each quarter and at the end of May and November respectively. Now the biggest feature that we're going to be adding over 2018, and one that we've been preparing for since the outset, is our new customer journey planner, or what some people refer to as the helicopter view. This will allow you to connect all your campaigns into a single viewpoint and allow you to see how those campaigns not only interact with each other, but also how they're responding and how they're achieving their individual goals. So the features that Matt showed in the presentation, to be able to link from and link to, are a sort of key component of this, because they show that particular journey as it connects together. In addition to that, we'll also allow each of the campaigns to have their own unique metric that allows you to define how that particular campaign is performing. That could be financial, or it could be just a counter that shows a level of success. So in the example we've got on the screen there, if we want to work out a campaign success based upon a number of website visits or the number of items downloaded, that can be your particular metric, as well as purchases. Now what you see on the screen now is a mock-up of what the user interface is looking like through the design, and this will start to come out over the 4 releases in 2018. So we are still looking for feedback about how this will work, and we'll look forward to customers taking the product and providing that to us. Now, real-time has always been a core part of the BlueVenn platform ever since we started development. Now for those of you that have attended the UK and US user groups over the last few years, you'll know that we've done demonstrations and added features into the product that allow you to achieve marketing goals in real time. Now real time to us is not only the ability for the platform to support it, it's also the ease of creating those campaigns in your system. Now real time could be the making of a purchase, the basket abandonment, or even the geographical walking into a store. And where you may want to have a real-time action, or even may not want to do a real-time action depending on what other communication is going on for a particular consumer, is if you were to walk into a store, you may decide to send them an offer to encourage them to purchase while they're within that particular outlet. In addition to the real-time, the workflow engine, which is the ability to control all that action and string those items together, which is a core part of the campaign management system, will continue to be improved so that you can consume more third-party services that you would like to within your business. Artificial intelligence is very much a sort of key buzzword for the industry at this current point. We feel that we are continuing to add modelling features to the product as we go. Again, as shown in the demonstration, we've already had the ability to use modelling within the system, so that's going to be taken forward using the core R platform that exists within BlueVenn to include those deterministic type modelling features such as shade and clustering on the first outset, but also we'll be looking to add more artificial intelligence sort of genetic algorithm type features through R as well, to allow you to get more value from the data you've got in your system and what your customers are doing In addition, we've also started trialling some of the new Amazon services. So Amazon now have voice and facial recognition services that allow you to consume and determine what the data is trying to tell you. They come through the Amazon Poly recognition and Lex services. So you may want to analyze a picture to see whether it's showing a particular food or a particular product, or you may want to analyze some text to work out whether it's positive or negative about your particular business or their interaction with your business. Reporting also remains a key part of the platform. We also showed some of the reporting features we added in 2017, but we'll also be adding over 2018 the ability to customize and build your own report. So the metrics you want to see are the ones you get on the dashboards, so making it very bespoke and customizable to you. The platform itself is something that we're very passionate about. It's not the most sort of glamorous side of what we do, but we recognise it's very important to make sure that you can take new versions of the software and utilise all the great features we're putting into it. So that'll be improved over 2018, so you can get notifications and automatic updates when the software changes. This will allow us in 2019 and beyond to deliver more than 4 releases a year, so that your software continuously updates, and therefore we don't have to necessarily worry about taking or downloading a new version. Now, connectors again, help you as marketeers, work with the services you already have in the business. We'll continue to add email providers. So the ones we're looking at are, such like as Cheetah Mail and Sailthrough. We're also looking at sort of data and content management platforms. So the sort of DMPs of the world like Crux, C-Sense and LiveRamp. In addition, the B2B side, we're considering NetSuite and Salesforce. Messaging, the mobile messaging services like Urban Airship, and of course the social channels continue to grow, so the inclusion of platforms like Instagram and Pinterest. Data is something that underpins your marketing, and in addition to the services like Microsoft SQL Server, MongoDB and Redshift from Amazon that we currently support, so we'll be looking to extend those out to include more data and big data sources. In addition, we want to allow you to have access to the new breed of data as a service, DaaS type offerings, which allow you to access storage locations held in the cloud. So I hope you can see from what we've presented so far that we've got some exciting changes coming in 2018. And you can all be part of that, and we'd also like you to contribute. But hopefully, we can now just drop in some questions that have occurred during the session.
Great, thanks guys. Yes, we've had several questions come through, and I am conscious of time, so I'm just going to dive straight in if that's okay. Okay, so the first question that came through was, firstly, how do you determine what goes into a roadmap, Chris?
Yeah, excellent question there. So we have a number of different forums that we use to sort of pick up what people would like the software to achieve. So we have our user groups every year, including this joint event this year. We also have customer advisory boards, which are sort of sessions like sort of product feedback and allow groups of people to come in a roundtable format and give us some uncandid feedback on what the software should do or what they would like to see it doing in the future. Also, we do encourage sort of direct user feedback and requests as well. We have an automated system that people can submit requests and tickets into us that we can then process, and that can come in either directly or through your account management team. But the great thing about that system is you can see how your individual request progresses itself through our production line. And then finally, we use our support and training engineers to listen to what people say during those sessions and give us feedback at the end.
Awesome, thanks Chris. Yeah, I think it's good to note that any of these kind of customer events that we hold, we are always notifying our clients via email. So any sessions that you hear about now that you want to get involved in, then just fire us over an email and we'll let you know when the next session's coming up.
Yeah, please do take part when you possibly can.
Cool. Okay, so the next question that came through was, can we be part of any beta testing?
Oh, yes please, yes please. So every time we release the software, we always make that available about 6 to 4 weeks before we release. This is a process that allows not only our internal teams to become familiar, but also external clients and users like yourself to become part of the beta test program. Again, just contact your sort of client account representative, and we can make sure that we ship you that software. I mean, what we do ask in return is that you do use the software and you do give us feedback, because otherwise, no feedback is not great feedback for us during that beta test program. But certainly, from our point of view, more the merrier.
Awesome. And how do you decide which connectors to build?
Really good question. Really good question. So we appreciate that there's more connectors than we can possibly ever connect the software to. So it is very much a prioritization process on which we choose first. That's normally driven by consumer and market demand in terms of what you guys would like to see in the software and what the most popular vendors are. But we're also looking for up and coming sort of emerging technologies as well that we can connect to. So it's a sort of blend of what we think and what you would like to see, and who the big players are in the industry.
Great. Right, and we'll just cover a couple more questions. Why are you making 4 BlueVenn releases per year?
Yes, it's a difficult number for us to choose how many to do a year. We would like to do as many as possible, because it means the software flows very quickly out of the R&D team, to your desktop. But at the same time, we recognise that people have their own internal IT constraints and their own sort of processes to actually go and take and upgrade that software. So currently, we feel once a quarter is a good balance between regular and achievable in terms of people taking that latest release.
Great, thanks, Chris. And lastly, how can users get access to connectors?
Yeah, good. Another good connector question. So again, we have connectors that are available off the shelf. As per the slide I showed earlier, any of those you can have availability of now. So just again, contact the business and get access to that connector, and you can go and take that. Depending on what sort of commercial package you've got, and go and use straight away.
Perfect. Thanks, Chris. Okay, well, thank you again, Chris and Matt, and thank you to all of our attendees for joining us for this session. Any of the questions that we didn't manage to cover will be answered via email, so if you think of any more questions you'd like to send in, please do so, and we'll get back to you. Now, we have much more coming up today and tomorrow, so make sure you stay tuned, and remember to check out the agenda for any sessions that might be of particular interest. Now, you can find the agenda at bluevenn.com/join-digital. But up next, we have Alex Guest from Full Contacts, and he'll be presenting how to avoid any data pitfalls that can sink your campaigns, whilst also highlighting some of his own experiences of personalised marketing attempts. So make sure you stick around. Fantastic. We'll be signing off now, but we'll see you in just a few moments. Goodbye.